Have you heard of Nakamoto? No, not Satoshi Nakamoto, but the company Nakamoto, ticker symbol NAKA, N-A-K-A. This, at one point, was supposed to be the next big Bitcoin Treasury company stock. But from what I can tell, it launched, it pumped, due to a lot of hype on Twitter mostly, and then it dumped pretty badly to the point where today, as I record this, the stock is down from a high of about $25 in May to under $1 today in October. That's down more than 90%, a lot more. It had a 50% drop in just one day a few weeks back. And listen, this video is not about dumping on Nakamoto. I'm just using them as an example. I'm not trying to pick on them specifically. But my point for bringing them up is that I didn't touch Nakamoto from the beginning. Not because I knew that this is what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen. But because I've basically stayed away from all these Bitcoin Treasury companies, not just Nakamoto, MetaPlanet, 21 Capital, Semler Scientific, you name it. And I'm not trying to gloat or kick anybody who's down on Nakamoto or whatever. That's not my point. I'm sure there's plenty of people who also made money on them. I have no idea. But my point is, while everyone was trying to figure out which one of these Bitcoin Treasury companies is going to moon next, I was basically just sitting there thinking, this all feels a lot like crypto with a few extra steps. Get the insiders in early, use the influencers to pump the stock, and get retail to buy the top. Yes, I understand they're backed by Bitcoin, so there's a difference, and that's why there's been a lot of interest in them in the Bitcoin community. But for me personally, they basically have nothing to do with why I got into Bitcoin in the first place. So in this video, I'm going to explain more about why I didn't buy NAKA or any of these other Bitcoin Treasury companies, and why I think most of them are mostly just fiat games wrapped in a shiny orange wrapper. And if you've ever felt that little lizard brain FOMO when you see one of these things jump 90% the day it gets listed or announced, then this video is going to be for you. Real quick, my name is John from My Favorite Thing About Bitcoin. Been studying Bitcoin for several years, started this channel with the goal of helping other people better understand and grow their conviction in Bitcoin. If that sounds like something you're interested in, hit the subscribe button. Part 1, the temptation. Let's be honest, on paper, Bitcoin Treasury companies sound kind of genius. I think most Bitcoiners agree that it's a logical evolution in the adoption of Bitcoin that companies are going to want to hold Bitcoin in their corporate treasury. There's nothing wrong with that. I have nothing against that. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. And a lot of people drew the line from that to these Bitcoin Treasury company stocks. Why not buy the stock of a company that holds Bitcoin, and even better, a company that might give you leverage to the upside because of their ability to acquire more Bitcoin faster or cheaper than you can? That's mostly the pitch. MSTR in the US obviously started this strategy. MetaPlanet in Japan has absolutely crushed with it. And then we saw the deluge this summer of copycats. A bunch of new tickers dropping, some of them flying up and making giant moves. And yeah, I too felt that little voice inside my head saying, should I be in this? Should I be buying some? Am I going to regret missing out on these? That's the temptation. But it's the same temptation a lot of you probably felt with crypto coins back in the day, maybe with meme coins more recently. Which token's going to moon next? Which one has the potential to do 100x? But as soon as you start asking yourself that question or feeling that greed and FOMO in the back of your brain, for me personally at least, that's where I stop. Because the second you're asking questions like that, you're not investing, you're gambling. You're back in the fiat mindset rat race. You're not stacking Bitcoin because it's the hardest money ever known. You're just chasing noise and fiat gains. And for me, that's basically when it clicks. This whole game of trying to pick Bitcoin Treasury company stocks is not all that different from picking regular stocks or from picking altcoins. Large part of the inspiration from this video came on that day when Nakamoto dropped like 50% in one day. And the other part of the motivation for this video came when Pledditor, this guy on Twitter, who, if you follow him, he likes to be sort of counter to whatever the mainstream popular narrative is. He likes to call out grifters or people he thinks are bad actors. And that's sort of his place in the conversation. So Pledditor drops this giant list that's basically a who's who of early investors in Nakamoto. Nakamoto, if you didn't know, is run by David Bailey, who's the guy behind BTC Inc. and UTXO Management, which runs Bitcoin Magazine, and which, let's just say, does not have the most sterling reputation among Bitcoin maxis. So what was interesting when Pledditor dropped the list of names of early investors in Nakamoto, big surprise, there was a bunch of big Bitcoin influencer names on it. Influencers, people who back big funds, people with large audiences and a lot of reach. And they all got in during the PIPE round, private investment in public equity, which means They bought in before it went public, and they got a way better deal than you ever could, which obviously is not illegal. It's not even a new idea. It's just, to me, the exact same playbook that we've seen in crypto a bazillion times. The goal is to launch a coin and load up a bunch of insiders at the beginning at a cheap price. So they hype it up, and then the coin drops, and then retail is there to buy the top, and then the dump happens. Except this summer, what we've seen is this is not happening just with shitcoins. It's happening with Bitcoin Treasury company stocks. And as we know, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. I'm not saying that any of this is illegal or what they did was a scam or that it was wrong. And it's not just about insiders getting in early. It's that then they're now incentivized to go talk about it and pump it up. Maybe they don't disclose that they're holding it. Maybe they don't mention their cost basis was pennies on the dollar compared to you. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but I am saying the entire structure of the thing invites that and incentivizes it. And it sets the stage for, as usual, retail to be exit liquidity. Seeing all this confirmed for me personally that I was glad that I was right to not buy into these things in the first place. Because again, it's not that what they're doing is illegal. It's not that it's a scam. There's not technically anything wrong with it. It's just that it's clearly not designed, in my opinion, to benefit retail investors. You're not the ones who are going to get rich off this. It's the people who are the insiders who get in early at a cheap price and then get to dump it when it goes public and pumps to its all-time high within the first couple days or couple weeks. Quick pause just to say, if you're liking the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. You can zap me sats via the QR code on the screen, use your Lightning wallet. And back to the video. Nakamoto is a SPAC that merged with a company called Kindly MD, I think. And the stocks was around $1 or between $1 and $2. This Bitcoin Treasury company gets announced. It flies up. It's $13. Then it hits $25. And then over the next few months, it does nothing, basically nothing, but dump. The insiders got thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands of shares before it ever went public, before the SPAC was ever announced. And retail buys it on the way up and gets crushed on the way down. Again, you are perfectly welcome to speculate on these things, buy and hold all of them, trade all of them, try to time the top, do whatever you want to do. For me personally, it's very clear that these are not investment vehicles that retail should be buying because they're not designed to benefit you. Again, it's not about picking on NAKA. It just seemed like the perfect example because it's just been playing out in real time over the last few months. It launches with a bunch of hype. Look at the team behind it. Remember that as a buzzword. That's a crypto buzzword. Oh, the team, the roadmap. You see the same thing with Bitcoin Treasury Company. Look at the team. Look who's running it. Oh, David Bailey's behind it. He's getting all these other people. Blah, 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 blah. It runs up hard and then it collapses. Takes a total round trip in less than a few months. Some people, I'm sure, made money early. Probably mostly the insiders. Probably the ones on that pipe list that Predator tweeted out. I'll try to find that again and put a link to it in the description so you can go look at it. But if you bought it thinking, oh, this is my leveraged Bitcoin play, oh, I was too late on MSTR and MetaPlanet, and now I'm going to get in on this one, you're probably down bad right now. 90+% from the highs, 50% drops in a day. Those don't seem like just pullbacks. They seem like a giant cliff. Could this thing come back? Sure, maybe. Why not? I guess. I don't know. Maybe Bitcoin rips and NAKA gets to ride the wave back up. But at this point, it seems unlikely. And it also seems unlikely that if Bitcoin rips and brings NAKA with it, you would have just been better off in Bitcoin in the first place. My point, again, is that these things are never a symmetrical bet for retail. Just like crypto tokens with insider allocations, you are always entering after the fact, after the insiders, after the pipe round, after the real run-up, and after the risk has all been transferred to you. That's not investing. That's just hoping that you're not the last one holding the bag. There's always been controversy, even starting with MSTR, around the whole we just bought some Bitcoin, now buy our stock. But once the copycats started popping up after MicroStrategy, started to feel to me like if this wrapper can just be printed over and over and over, how long before there's nothing special about this strategy anymore? When MSTR started buying Bitcoin, it definitely meant something. We're talking 2020. It was bold, it was unique, it was innovative. They were the first company to publicly say, we're going to hold Bitcoin on our balance sheet like it's gold. We're never going to sell it, and we're going to buy as much of it as we possibly can. And for a while, that gave them a significant moat. People bought MSTR as a proxy for leveraged Bitcoin exposure, or before the ETFs existed, it was a way to get access to Bitcoin exposure in accounts where you had trapped capital that couldn't buy Bitcoin. But once everybody started copying the playbook, and dozens, if not hundreds of other tiny companies started trying to ride the same narrative, it felt like the more of them there are, the less special any one of them becomes. It's a very crowded trade. the market became very diluted, and retail starts to end up having to just pick from a growing list of names, not knowing which ones are legit, which ones are just hype, which ones are being set up to rug pull after the run up. So again, like I said, it's the same thing that happens with altcoins. The first ones make a splash, ETH or whatever, XRP that came a long, long time ago. And then come gazillions of clones and forks of the clones. And they're all trying to sell you on the hype and the narrative of the team and the roadmap and the innovation and what they're going to do next. And the whole thing turns into a bunch of noise that you should just stay away from entirely, which is why I stay away from altcoins completely. But the summer of Bitcoin treasury companies felt the same way to me. You're stuck playing a guessing game in a market that looks a lot more like a lottery than any well thought out thesis. Now, full disclosure, I did buy MicroStrategy. I still do own MSTR. Some of it, like I said, early on for reasons that in accounts that I couldn't get Bitcoin exposure or for the leveraged Bitcoin play. And maybe that sounds like a contradiction of everything I've said so far, but I do think there's still a very big difference. MSTR holds more Bitcoin than any of them by a mile, way more. They're not just playing the treasury company game. They essentially are the treasury company game. They've got a ton of size. And what they've shown is they've got access to more capital, the ability to raise billions and buy thousands of coins, and come out with innovative new financial products that serve different markets that so far none of these other treasury companies have proven they can follow suit in terms of those other strategies that MSTR has pursued. All the other treasury companies can show that they can buy Bitcoin, but MSTR is still miles ahead in terms of all the other bond products and preferred equities that they've been able to issue to access other pools of capital that want Bitcoin exposure that couldn't get it in the past. MSTR still has this advantage, head start, and track record of being able to continue innovating on top of the Bitcoin treasury strategy. And I haven't seen any other company in the space with that kind of firepower. That said, I'm not totally sure that MSTR is immune to this dilution effect, because the more this treasury company trend grows, the more MSTR starts to look a little more ordinary, or the more capital that would have gone to MSTR just gets diluted into these other treasury companies. So maybe MSTR stock has less potential to run up because it has to compete with so many other competitors as everyone else copies their model. So they'll probably always be the ones who hold the most Bitcoin, but the market may stop rewarding them for being the only one doing it because now they're not. There's other reasons why they still command a premium to their holdings of Bitcoin, but the novelty premium of them being the only ones seems to be going away. The question with all this at the end of the day should always just be, do you want to hold Bitcoin, or do you want to hold a corporate proxy for Bitcoin that has additional risk attached to it? If there's some small percentage of your portfolio where you're trying to chase outsized gains over what performance Bitcoin itself is going to do, again, that's your business and you do you. But if you're a Bitcoin maxi who's in the game not just for fiat gains or purchasing power gains, but who's in it on principle to hold and promote the adoption of permissionless, decentralized, censorship-resistant digital money that has the ability to take down the fiat system and the central banks, then holding cold storage Bitcoin is the only thing that's going to do that. And for the vast majority of my portfolio, that's the part that really matters. The reason I stayed away from all these Bitcoin treasury companies in the first place. I didn't get into Bitcoin to become a trader or a stock picker or some guy on Twitter who's trying to time Bitcoin treasury company announcements. That's fiat brain. That's the old game. Chasing pump and dumps, timing news cycles, thinking you can outsmart insiders who have more money, better info, and earlier access than you'll ever have. That's the exact opposite of why I got into Bitcoin. Bitcoin didn't have a pipe round, no early allocations, no special access, no insiders who got special discounts. And when you decide to use Bitcoin as your long-term savings technology, you can set your dollar cost average and forget it. You don't have to think about it again. You don't have to check the charts. You don't have to worry if someone's going to dump on you next week. You don't have to check the news about when the SPAC merger is going to be completed. You don't even have to worry about whether the central bank's going to cut rates or all that other BS. You opt out and save your purchasing power in the hardest money that's ever known to man, knowing that Bitcoin will forever appreciate against dirty, debasing fiat. I'm perfectly happy to see companies buying Bitcoin, additional adoption as a store of value, putting Bitcoin on their balance sheets or using it in their corporate treasuries, whatever they want to do. I don't have a problem with it. But the treasury company stock craze, to me, felt a lot like the crypto casino in a new costume. Sure, you might win some, but not very likely, because there's a whole group of people whose job it is to get access before you with more money than you and beat you at that game. That doesn't sound like freedom to me. It just sounds like more stress, when Bitcoin is the opposite of that and the way out of it. So you might say, NAKA's a bad example. There's other Bitcoin treasury companies that have gone up. You've made money off them. That's totally fine. I have no criticisms for you. And NAKA might pump again and come all the way back. And there might be another Bitcoin treasury company that comes along and catches a wave. And plenty of people will try to time it right and brag about their 3x bag, which is totally fine. Good for them. But for every one of those companies or one of those people, there's probably 100 retail investors who buy in late and get left holding the bag, who provided the exit liquidity to the insiders who got in early, who thought they were investing in the next great Bitcoin proxy, but were really just gambling on hype and hope, which is not the game that I want to play. I didn't get into Bitcoin to chase alpha and fiat gains. I got into Bitcoin to escape games rigged against me, escape the insiders, the special rules, and transition to neutral, open access money that I can actually trust. So that's why I personally didn't buy NAKA or any of these other Bitcoin treasury companies. I'd be interested for you to tell me in the comments if you did buy any of them, what your experience was, what you've learned, what your overall opinion is on Bitcoin treasury companies. Is it a fad? Are they here to stay? What's the next evolution? We've already started to see some of them gobble each other up in mergers and acquisitions. And of course, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. And as always, you never forget that Bitcoin is inevitable.